Impact driver versus drill. Everyone tells you the impact driver wins. Buy that first. It's stronger, it's faster, it's the real tool, and the drill is just what your dad used. That's backwards. Dead backwards. And it might already be costing you stripped screws, ruined bits, and a tool that can't do half of what you actually need it to do. Here's the truth. Almost no buying guide will tell you. Walk into any hardware store and ask which tool to buy first, and you'll hear the same answer over and over: get the impact driver. It hits harder, it drives faster, it sounds tougher. But does louder and stronger actually mean better? Most people believe the impact driver is the smarter first purchase, and this video is going to show you why that belief is quietly setting up beginners to strip screws, ruin bits, and hit a wall the moment a job calls for anything other than driving a fastener. By the end, you'll know exactly which tool deserves the top spot in your kit, and why the answer surprises almost everyone who's never taken both apart side by side. Start with the basics, because the consensus isn't built on nothing. A drill spins one direction at a time, controlled by a trigger and a set of gears. An impact driver spins the same way, but the moment it hits resistance, a totally different mechanism kicks in. Picture a small hammer inside the tool slamming against an anvil, over and over, in the same direction the bit is turning. That's rotational impact, and it's the reason a compact impact driver can out-torque a much larger drill. And to be fair, it makes sense that people believe the impact driver is the better tool. The numbers back it up on paper. One popular compact drill peaks around 530 inch-pounds of torque. A same-size impact driver in the same lineup hits nearly 1,500. That's almost 3 times the output, in a tool that's often shorter and lighter than the drill sitting next to it. Compact kits have leaned into that gap for years, marketing the impact driver as the tougher little sibling. Think of it like comparing a compact car with a small block engine against one with a turbocharger crammed into the same frame. On a spec sheet, the turbocharged version wins every time. But a spec sheet doesn't tell you which one is easier to drive in traffic, which one stalls out at low speed, or which one you'd actually want when the job isn't a straight line. That's where this story turns. Because raw torque isn't the same as usefulness. And the next question is simple. What happens when that extra power meets a job it was never built for? Here's the detail almost every buying guide leaves out. An impact driver has no clutch, none. A drill, on the other hand, comes with a clutch dial that can range from barely there resistance all the way up to full lockout, usually numbered somewhere around 1 through 21, depending on the brand. Set it low, and the drill will physically stop turning the moment a screw meets enough resistance, protecting delicate materials like thin cabinet hinges from getting overdriven. The impact driver doesn't know when to stop. It just keeps hammering until the screw strips, the material cracks, or the hole is ruined beyond saving. That's not a minor inconvenience. That's the difference between a clean repair and a hole you now have to fill, re-drill, and reinforce before you can even try again. Think of a clutch, like a car's seatbelt pretensioner. It doesn't stop the car, it just knows exactly when to grab and hold before things go too far. A drill has that instinct built in. An impact driver doesn't. It's all accelerator, no seatbelt. And here's a number that rarely comes up: kickback. When a bit binds in tough material, a drill can suddenly twist in your hand hard enough to strain a wrist or a shoulder. It's a real risk, and manufacturers are only slowly rolling out anti-kickback features to address it. The impact driver's hammering mechanism, by contrast, absorbs that bind instead of transferring it to your arm, which sounds like a clear win for the impact driver. So, why isn't that enough to settle the argument? Because the same mechanism that eliminates kickback is the one with zero brakes. You trade one risk for a completely different one. So which risk would you rather manage: a jolt to your wrist, or a tool that can't tell the difference between tightened and destroyed? Run the numbers on what that second risk actually costs. A stripped screw hole in cabinetry usually means backing the screw out, packing the hole with wood filler or a golf tee and glue, letting it cure, then re-drilling easily 15 to 20 minutes lost on what should have been a 10-second fastener. Do that 3 or 4 times across a weekend project, and the tool with the bigger torque number has quietly eaten an hour of the job it was supposed to speed up. That's the part the spec sheet never shows you. Here's where the consensus fully falls apart. Pull up the accessory options for each tool, and the gap gets even wider. A drill's 3-jaw chuck accepts round-shank bits anywhere from a 1/16 of an inch to a 1/2 inch hole saws, spade bits, Forstner bits, masonry bits, all of it. An impact driver is locked into one format, a 1/4-inch hex shank, and only hex shank, no exceptions. And that hex shank requirement isn't just a different shape, it changes the bit itself. Impact-rated bits are built with a thinner torsion zone near the tip, engineered to flex slightly and absorb the hammering action without snapping. Slide a standard hex bit into an impact driver instead of an impact-rated one, and it can shear off mid-drive because it was never designed to survive that kind of repeated shock. That's an entire category of accessory compatibility. The impact driver simply doesn't have to worry about with a drill. And one more way to just buy the stronger tool. Advice quietly ignores what's actually happening inside the chuck. Then there's masonry. Plenty of drills include a hammer setting, which adds a pounding motion behind the rotation essential for drilling into concrete, brick, or stone. Try that with an impact driver, and you'll ruin a bit and get nowhere because the tool has no equivalent function. It was never built for it. Picture someone mounting a shelf bracket into a brick wall with nothing but an impact driver in the truck. That job simply doesn't happen. A masonry bit chatters, overheats, and dulls in seconds against material a hammer drill setting would chew through in one steady pass. There's no workaround, no adapter, no setting to switch to. The job stops cold until a drill shows up. Gears matter too. A drill with 2 speeds can shift into a lower gear for maximum torque at low speed, the setting you want for driving into hardened metal. An impact driver's so-called speed settings, even on premium models, aren't torque adjustments at all. They're just limiters on how fast the hammer inside fires. Same ceiling, just approached more slowly. It's the difference between a car with an actual low gear for towing and one that just has a gentle throttle map, same destination, but only one of them is engineered for the load. So line up the evidence. No clutch, 1-bit format only, no masonry capability, and torque control that's really just a speed cap in disguise. Every one of those gaps sits on the impact driver side of the ledger. Meanwhile, the drill's supposed weakness, less raw torque, turns out to be the thing that makes it controllable enough to trust on delicate work, hard materials, and everything in between. Picture the beginner who follows the consensus, buys an impact driver first, skips the drill, and starts a small project, say, hanging cabinet hardware. That thin cup hinge needs a light touch. Without a clutch to catch it, the impact driver overdrives the screw, strips the hole, and turns a 5-minute job into a repair project involving wood filler and a re-drill. Multiply that across a weekend of small fixes, and the more powerful tool has cost more time than it saved. Now picture the same beginner with a drill instead. Clutch set to 1. The drill stops itself the instant it meets resistance on that same hinge. No stripped hole, no repair. Job done in the time it takes to say it. Zoom out further, and the pattern holds at the professional level too. Electricians running conduit through studs, cabinet installers hanging delicate hardware, anyone drilling into masonry for anchors, none of that work touches the impact driver's actual strength. Its real advantage, that near triple torque output, only shows up in one place, driving long, heavy-duty fasteners like deck screws or lag bolts into stubborn material. Everywhere else, it's either overkill or the wrong shape bit entirely. That's the real cost of the consensus. Buy the tool with the bigger number first, and you've bought the specialist before the generalist and the backup before the tool you'll actually reach for on most jobs. So, what should you actually do? Pause. Buy the drill first. Not because the impact driver is a bad tool, it's excellent at exactly one job, but because the drill is the one that covers drilling, driving, masonry, and delicate work all in a single body, with a clutch that protects you from your own tool. The impact driver earns its spot later, as the specialist you bring in for heavy fasteners and stubborn bolts, not as the foundation of a first kit. You won't hear this from most gear guides, and here's why. Torque numbers make for an easy headline, and buy the one with the bigger spec is a simple sell. Versatility doesn't fit as neatly into a thumbnail. Pause. But versatility is what actually gets a beginner through a full weekend of mixed jobs without a trip back to the hardware store for a stripped screw fix. The irony is that the tool built to hit harder is also the one with the fewest ways to hold back. And the tool everyone treats as the starter option is the one with the built-in judgment to know when to stop. Power isn't the same as control. A tool that can't stop itself isn't stronger, it's just less forgiving. The drill's supposed weakness, that lower torque ceiling, is the exact feature that keeps a beginner's project from turning into a repair job. And that's worth more than a bigger number on a spec sheet. So do you still think the impact driver deserves the top spot in a first toolkit, or has this changed your mind? Drop your take in the comments, because this one splits people right down the middle, and not everyone watching is going to agree.